The night sky over Metropolis did not burn with the light of stars, but with the fires of absolute destruction. In the ruined, debris-filled streets below, a massive armored military tank was instantly liquefied into a pool of glowing molten slag. The apocalyptic heat came from a blindingly bright, thick beam of crimson energy fired directly from the smoke-filled heavens. Hovering completely silently above the burning city, the nightmare was finally revealed. This was not the hero the world knew. Apex Superman had shed his classic blue suit entirely, his body now covered in a horrifying, cold, translucent, glowing dermis. Faint, pulsing energy coursed just beneath his skin, and his solid red eyes burned with the emotionless, predatory malice of a god who had finally decided to swat the insects below. Down in the dark streets, terrified civilian survivors in torn clothing could only look up. Their pale faces were illuminated by the eerie, unnatural crimson glow radiating from his hovering silhouette. The muffled gasps of the innocent were drowned out as 3 sleek military fighter jets violently broke through the dark clouds. They fired a massive barrage of heavy missiles directly at the silently hovering entity. The heavy artillery violently struck his chest, but the explosions instantly fizzled out. The deadly payloads bounced off his translucent skin like harmless raindrops, leaving him completely unfazed. Without moving a single muscle, his solid red eyes flared intensely. A hyper-fast, razor-thin beam of heat vision cleanly sliced the lead fighter jet entirely in half, turning its metal and the pilot within to liquid in a fraction of a second. With Metropolis reduced to ash, Apex Superman ascended into the pitch-black vacuum of space. From orbit, his glowing, translucent silhouette hovered menacingly. He looked down at the glowing blue and green planet not as a protector, but like a hungry apex predator observing a vast, inescapable slaughterhouse. Deep underground, far below the ruins of Metropolis, General Lane stood inside a claustrophobic, dimly lit military bunker. Sweating profusely, he stared in sheer panic at a massive red glowing radar screen. A single, ultra-fast blip was descending straight toward them. Suddenly, the thick, reinforced steel and concrete ceiling began to violently glow bright orange. The impenetrable defenses liquefied instantly as a massive beam of crimson heat vision melted straight through the earth. Dropping gracefully down through the freshly melted hole, Apex Superman landed silently on the metal floor. His terrifying internal anatomy softly illuminated the smoky room as dozens of terrified soldiers backed away in horror. Desperate, the soldiers raised their assault rifles and opened fire simultaneously. A massive wave of glowing tracer bullets struck him, but his cold, translucent skin absorbed the impact without a single scratch. Slowly, the fallen god turned his head towards the firing soldiers. His solid red eyes flared with an impossibly bright, blinding light that completely washed out the dark room. A horrific wave of crimson heat vision swept across the bunker, literally vaporizing the weapons and liquefying the bones of the soldiers, reducing them to glowing ash in an instant. Standing alone amidst the melted ruins, he tilted his head upward, his glowing red eyes searching the night sky for his next global target. With a massive shockwave of displacement air, he launched himself back into the dark sky at hyperspeed. The global slaughter had begun. Hovering silently in the freezing void of space, his body illuminated the dark cosmos like a terrifying star. Down on Earth, in the brightly lit city of Paris, thousands of panicked civilians ran through the cobblestone streets. A massive beam of heat vision struck directly from space, instantly liquefying the iron structure of the Eiffel Tower into glowing molten slag. In Tokyo, the vibrant blue and pink neon lights of the rainy city were completely washed out by an oppressive crimson glow as the terrifying silhouette dropped silently into the sky. Deep beneath the freezing waters of the Pacific Ocean, a massive military nuclear submarine was surrounded by violently boiling water. Apex Superman effortlessly swam past it, his red eyes glowing like demonic flares in the deep abyss as the hull warped and crushed under the extreme heat. Inside the highly secured Pentagon control room, frantic generals watched multiple giant digital screens flash red with global target lock warnings. High above the stormy Atlantic Ocean, a squadron of F-35 fighter jets fired a massive barrage of missiles. Superman simply flew directly through the supersonic explosions unharmed. He collided physically with the lead jet, shattering the massive aircraft into a million burning pieces of shrapnel without even slowing his terrifying flight path. In the scorching daylight of the Sahara Desert, a massive convoy of desert camo tanks was halted as he landed silently before them. The intense heat of his body instantly turned the sand beneath his feet into smooth, glowing glass. When the lead tank fired a high explosive shell, his heat vision violently detonated it in midair. Across the globe, the terror spread. A terrified news anchor broadcasted shaky helicopter footage of the translucent god hovering over the burning ruins of London. Deep underground in a London subway, thousands of crying civilians looked up in sheer horror as the concrete ceiling began to glow orange, melting through the earth. In a desperate, final attempt to save humanity, the military dropped a massive, blindingly bright nuclear warhead directly onto Apex Superman high above the Himalayas. But as the colossal fireball cleared his cold, translucent skin was actively absorbing the atomic radiation. Drifting silently through the thick radioactive smoke, his body now pulsed with a sick, toxic green and crimson energy. In the Pacific, a massive aircraft carrier was cleanly sliced entirely in half by a single, continuous sweeping beam from the atmosphere. Inside a highly classified United Nations bunker, world leaders sat in absolute, terrified silence as their global monitors turned to static snow one by one. Humanity had lost, but in Gotham City, one man remained. Deep underground in the dark, damp subterranean Batcave, Bruce Wayne stood intensely before a massive wall of monitors. He wore a heavily armored, lead-lined dark tactical suit. High above the smog-choked, burning skyline of Gotham, Apex Superman hovered in absolute silence. Dozens of terrified civilian survivors huddled together on the cold stone floor of the Batcave, looking up at Batman as their absolute last line of defense. Superman's eyes flared brightly as he used his X-ray vision to look straight through the burning skyscrapers. His gaze violently pierced the earth, but abruptly stopped at the massive, black lead-shielded bedrock hiding the cave. On the dimly lit metal platform, Batman aggressively chambered a massive, glowing green kryptonite round into a heavy sniper rifle, his jaw clenched in grim determination. Apex Superman effortlessly floated down into the ruined streets of Gotham, his pulsing internal energy casting a demonic light over the shattered asphalt. Deep in the silent Batcave, a terrified young child accidentally knocked over a heavy steel pipe. The massive metallic clang reverberated violently through the cavern. Above ground, Superman's head snapped downward with terrifying precision. His super hearing caught the incredibly faint echo from deep underground. His eyes flared with blinding intensity, unleashing a massive, continuous beam of heat vision that violently boiled and melted straight through the solid earth. Inside the Batcave, the rocky ceiling began to drip molten slag. Batman instantly dropped to one knee, aiming his kryptonite sniper rifle directly up at the melting rock. As the ceiling collapsed, he fired. The explosive gunshot echoed through the cavern, and the glowing green round violently struck Superman's chest. But the radioactive bullet simply flattens and harmlessly bounced off his cold, translucent glowing skin. Superman smoothly touched down onto the metal platform, his crimson glow illuminating the faces of the screaming civilians. In a desperate final stand, Batman aggressively charged forward, swinging a massive, glowing green kryptonite spear. Without flinching, Superman effortlessly caught the spear with one hand and violently grabbed Batman by the throat with the other, lifting him effortlessly off the floor. Held helplessly in the air, Batman struggled as Superman's eyes flared with blinding intensity. A hyper-focused beam of crimson heat vision instantly melted through the thick lead and titanium chest plate of the Dark Knight. The defeated, smoking body of Batman dropped heavily onto the metal platform. Slowly, the translucent god turned his terrifying eyes toward the cornered, screaming survivors. A horrific wave of crimson heat vision swept across the cavern, literally vaporizing the giant Batcomputer and eradicating the final human resistance. Rising high above the destroyed skyline of Gotham, a massive, blinding pillar of heat vision violently erupted from the ground into the dark storm clouds, signaling the absolute end of the human race. From an orbital view high above the dead planet, the silent, terrifying silhouette of Apex Superman hovered menacingly. He looked down at a world now completely covered in glowing red ash and thick black smoke. The ultimate apex predator was victorious over his global slaughterhouse.